All right, if I had to choose a single most important piece of advice for golfers, it would probably be this. Ben Hogan once said, every day you miss practice is another day it's going to take until you get good at this game. So, with that in mind, I kind of have an analogy as to what it takes to be good at golf. I almost look at it like you have a tub and you're trying to fill up that tub full of water, but you can only fill it up with one drip at a time. That drip represents each day of practice. Now, maybe if you're doing a lot, you can maybe get 3 or 4 drips per day, meaning if you work on your putting and your short game and your long game and you're practicing for 5, 6, 7 hours a day, maybe you can get 3 or 4 drips in a day, but that's the most you can do. You can never just pour the faucet on and start filling it up really quickly. It's just not how the game works. But if you miss a day of practice or you ignore one of those things, that's a drop of water that doesn't get in the tub. And the other thing is, we don't get to retain all of that water perfectly. Just like a tub, some water is going to seep through that drain even if we put a seal on it. Now, we want to make that seal as tight as possible to retain as much water as we can, but we're not going to make it perfect. Now, what is the seal? The seal is our mental game, the seal is our technique, and the seal is our equipment. Hopefully we get those things as good as we can, but those aren't what makes good golf. They're just going to retain the water as best you can. It's the practice, it's the putting in the effort that is actually going to put water into that tub so it can fill up. Now, it'll never get completely full because nobody gets to play to 100% of their potential at all times. You're always going to have stuff drip through the cracks. Our technique's always going to slip a little bit and we got to get it back. Our mind's not going to be right. We're going to have to get that back. Hopefully our equipment is always a constant. We're staying on top of that and making sure nothing deviates away from what we need. But you never know. We get older. Maybe our swing speed changes. Maybe we need to update it a touch. But with a good prescription, hopefully it all stays right where we need it to be. But the point is, you're trying to get those things right to make sure you're getting the most out of your game. But if you're not putting in the practice, you're never going to fill up your tub of potential and you'll never get as good as you want to be. All right, if I could hop in a time machine and give my younger self advice, here's what it would be. Try and get as good at this game as you can, but don't chase perfection. It's the dumbest thing you can try and do. The thing that I feel like has killed my golf game more so than anything is I always blame my bad ball striking on my swing, which yes, obviously I'm sure there's some of that in there, but I would make a change, make another change, keep changing, keep changing. And what do you do when you're making a change? Well, you're breaking old habits. And the idea is that you're supposed to develop new habits. But if you always feel like you're not making the changes you want, or it doesn't look the way you want, or you have this idea of perfect in your brain, you keep changing and you never settle on anything. I'd much rather say, hey, you know what? I've made the changes I need. This is good enough. Now let's just do the same thing over and over and over again and let's master it. Because if you master it, now you have habits. Now you can get very good at the timing of squaring up your face and your path and all that stuff. You can develop a ball pattern. You can build a course management game plan around that. You can get back to being good and consistent because you're not changing. You're becoming a master of what you're doing. So there has to be a cutoff point where you stop trying to change everything. But the same thing goes for equipment. I never really struggle with changing my equipment too much, but I have a lot of friends and I have a lot of competitors who do. Some people will putt bad for a couple weeks and they decide, you know what, I gotta throw a new putter in the bag because this one's just not working. Yeah, or maybe you didn't practice enough, or maybe you're just in a little bit of a slump and give it some time, it'll turn around. Or what's even worse is players will be driving the golf ball great and then it'll be the next year's new model of driver that comes out and they'll think, hey, you know what, newer has to be better, I'm putting the new one in the bag. Well, even if it's better by a robot's design, is it better for you? Is the head gonna perform the same? Did you put the exact same shaft in? Is the weight the same? Whatever it is, if it's any bit different, which it is, which is why it's a new driver, they're trying to create something different in it, well, you're not gonna have the exact same pattern. Again, you won't be a master of it, and now all of a sudden you can go from driving it great to driving it poorly because you threw something that was better in the golf bag, but again, better by a robot's definition, not necessarily by a definition for you. So again, what's the moral of the story? There has to be a point of good enough. Go through a proper club fitting, find a club you love, and own that club. Make some changes to your technique, say that's good enough, and then master your swing. Don't try and chase perfection. If I could go back and do it again, that's what I would do. All right, so as a fitter at Forward Golf, one of the most common questions I get is what's more important, the club head or the shaft? To me, it's kind of a bad question because they're both equally as important. They have different jobs. I guess there's two ways I can kind of answer this question. Number one, It's going to depend, well, what do you have right in your clubs or what do you not? If you have a club head that fits you and a shaft that doesn't, well, the shaft's going to be more important for you because that's what's lacking. And if your shaft is fitting for you but your head doesn't, then you want to get a proper head for you because that's what's lacking. But ultimately, they got to work together. Think of it this way. This is probably the best way I can answer this. The club head is doing the work. The club head is what's interacting with the golf ball. The direction the face is pointed, whether it's square, open, or closed, the strike location on the club face, the angle of attack I'm hitting the golf ball with, the dynamic loft I have, the speed I have, all of these things are going to determine how that ball is going to fly. But my technique of my swing and how this shaft is delivering the club into the golf ball are all going to affect the orientation of this club head. It's going to affect my angle of attack, it's going to affect my path, the dynamic loft, all of that stuff. So it's going to change how the club is going to get delivered in the golf ball. So in a certain sense, you could say the head's more important because the head's doing the work. Then you could say the shaft's more important because it's changing where the head is positioned as it's hitting it. So when you look at it like that, it kind of makes you come to the conclusion, well, they're both equally important. You want to find a sole design and a lie angle and a loft that is going to make sure the ball's coming off properly, and then you want to find a shaft that's going to pair up with it so it can deliver the club into the golf ball the way you need it to. That way you can get a proper strike location, a proper start line, the proper curvature that you're looking for, and most importantly, one that can do it consistently as repeatedly as possible so you become a consistent golfer. So again, is the head more important or the shaft? They're equally as important. Again, one might be more important for you than the other because you might be lacking in that department, but ultimately you need both of them correct if you're going to play your best golf. All right, so the other day over at Ford, one of the people who came in asked me, what do you think is the most important variable in the fitting test? Which is kind of an interesting question because I could answer it a couple of different ways. I think first off, it's dependent upon the individual. Whatever you're lacking, or if you have something that's the opposite of what you should have in your bag and that's currently in your bag, that's probably going to be the most important thing to you. Then I could answer the question is what's most important to me in my game? And then I could answer the question to what moves the needle the most. So I guess I'll answer it all three ways. So first off, we have 8 different variables. We're going to have grip, we're going to have length, swing weight, total weight, kick point of the shaft, flex of the shaft, lie angle, and we're going to have sole design. Well, I would say if we're looking at what could move the needle the most, lie angle tends to move the needle the most, or grip size. You give somebody a giant grip, you can oftentimes see balls go really high and to the right, or players who've never hit it before, they love it, and all of a sudden they feel like they can release it more freely, they get it more online. Or the lie angle. If you make somebody have a club that's 7 degrees flat versus 7 degrees upright, you're going to see a massively different golf shot 99 times out of 100. So those are probably the biggest needle movers, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're the most important. Because for me, for example, kick point was the most important test. I used to play a low kick point shaft. I actually need either a high or a medium kick point shaft. The only shaft that doesn't fit me is a low kick point shaft. And I didn't know it till I went through the test. And after switching, it's changed my game dramatically. So that's how I would kind of answer that question. And then again, for whatever it is for you, can make a big difference. Oftentimes I'll see a player come in, they'll have more of a player style club, more of a low bounce club. And then if they need a high bounce, they start hitting that really well, it shallows out their divot. It makes a huge difference in their strike location, the height, the spin, and everything. So it just changes from player to player. So is one more important than the other? Not really, because I see every single one of the 8 variables move the needle for a different player. Again, some players, they'll hit 5 tests and they see no difference, but the 3 that do move the needle for them makes a huge difference in their game. And it's just random every single time. It's not like we're always seeing the sole design or the shaft flex move it. It's just random across the board. And that's why it's important to get fit and go through the test, because you don't know what those things are until you hit the club. So is there one most important? I think there's things that are maybe more impactful than others or can move the needle more aggressively, but what's more important for you has to be found out by hitting the clubs.